The coffee was still warm when Harold Whitmore vanished from the red brick house on Maple Street in Germantown, Philadelphia, population 14,203. The July night of 1971 arrived with humid heat, heavy with the smell of rain and the droning of cicadas in the backyard. At 9:15 p.m., Harold's neighbor, Mrs. Agnes Miller, looked through her kitchen window and saw him crossing the lawn, cigarette in hand, heading toward the old stable, where the porch light cast faint golden streaks. He was wearing a white shirt, tall in stature, slowly disappearing behind the wooden fence. Not long after, Mrs. Miller noticed a thin plume of smoke rising from that garden area, a burnt smell seeping into the stifling summer air. The next morning, Harold's Buick was still parked in the garage, the coffee cup cold on the desk, but he was no longer there. What happened that night would haunt Philadelphia for nearly half a century afterward. Before diving deeper into the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the latest cases. The summer of 1971, the Germantown area in northern Philadelphia lay in the hot, humid, and quiet atmosphere of an old suburb. Red brick houses lined the narrow tree-shaded street with elm trees, where most residents knew each other. The Whitmore family lived in a spacious two-story house with a porch and a stable in the back. Harold Whitmore, 58 years old, was a prominent real estate lawyer who had worked for a major city housing development company. He was known as a principled man, careful in his work, sometimes strict with his own family. His wife, Eleanor, 36 years old, stayed home managing household affairs and caring for their 4 teenage children. They were the typical image of a stable middle-class family in Philadelphia in the early 1970s. Sufficient assets, a seemingly peaceful life. Few imagining abnormalities could occur behind the doors of the brick house. On the evening of July 3rd, the sky was thick with clouds, wind from the Delaware River carrying moisture. In the Whitmore house, dinner ended with a small argument between the couple about finances and Harold's work. The heavy atmosphere caused the children to quietly leave the table, leaving the 2 adults in the brightly lit kitchen. Later, Eleanor said her husband stayed in his study until late, occasionally stepping out to the porch to smoke. Around near midnight, one of the children heard the back door close and saw their father's silhouette heading toward the stable, holding a thin jacket. No one saw him return. The next morning, when sunlight was already shining through the window frames, Harold did not appear at the breakfast table as usual. The study was empty, the wristwatch, wallet, and key ring still left on the desk. Eleanor called the law office where he worked, but colleagues said he hadn't shown up. She continued contacting a few close family friends, all of whom had no news. Harold's gray Buick was still parked in the yard, doors locked, keys on the hook in the kitchen. Throughout the morning, the whole family searched around the neighborhood, along the roads leading to the small nearby park and the local market. They asked the newspaper delivery person, shopkeepers, even went to the post office, but no one had seen Harold since the previous night. As the afternoon passed, there was no possibility that he had left the house voluntarily, and a sense of unease spread. Everyone returned in a state of confusion, no one clearly stating what was happening. By evening, Eleanor and the children discussed that they needed to notify the authorities. The eldest son, Richard, then 16 years old, was the one who picked up the phone to call the Philadelphia Police Department to report his father missing. The call was transferred to the Germantown Area Dispatch Center and recorded as a case of an adult not returning home for more than 24 hours. Preliminary information was entered into the system, and the case was quickly transferred to the Area Investigation Unit. Inspector Thomas Greer, who had handled missing persons and civil cases for many years, was assigned to follow the case. He and 2 officers arrived at the house on Maple Street in the evening, when lights in the surrounding houses were sporadically turning off. The air was stifling, wind still, and the narrow street almost silent except for the sound of shoes on the brick sidewalk. Eleanor Whitmore opened the door to greet them, appearing calm but tired, saying her husband had left the house the previous night and there had been no contact since. The 2-story red brick house was dimly lit with yellow light, everything inside neat and seemingly unchanged from the previous evening. While Eleanor summarized the events, Inspector Greer went through each room for an overall observation. The living room was tidy, the dining table cleared, no signs of struggle. Harold's study was unusually clean. Documents stacked neatly, drawers locked, and on the desk were the wristwatch, leather wallet, and car key ring. Greer noted in his notebook that these were not items a man intending to go far would leave behind. He continued to the hallway connecting to the kitchen. The back door was ajar, the hinge had dark scratch marks, and on the wooden floor appeared long skid marks. Wind blowing in carried a faint smoke smell, like half-burnt wood. When going out to the backyard, flashlight beams revealed ash and embers scattered around a patch of ground near the stable. Greer requested the accompanying officer to photograph and collect some soil into sample bags. When asked, Eleanor said they often gathered dry leaves to burn, a normal habit in the house. The inspector made no comment, only noting unusual smoke smell, fresh ash. After surveying the area, the group returned inside to draft the initial report. Greer requested family members provide Harold's personal information, age, height, weight, identifying features, health condition, travel habits. Eleanor stated her husband had high blood pressure, smoked heavily, rarely went out in the evening, and recently seemed stressed at work. The eldest son, Richard, added that his father had no reason to leave the house without taking his wallet, car, and documents, nor did he tell anyone in the house where he was going. Police quickly checked the garage, confirming Harold's gray Buick was still there, doors locked, gas tank full. Greer concluded the visit by reviewing the list of people who might contact Harold, asking Eleanor to handwrite names, addresses, and phone numbers of colleagues, close friends, and relatives. Before leaving, he instructed the family not to move items, lock the back door, and wait for further instructions. Upon returning to the area headquarters, he completed the first entry in the file: no signs of entry, items in house intact, vehicle on site, smoke smell around backyard, disappearance cause unclear. The Harold Whitmore missing person case file was officially opened in the Philadelphia Police Department system. The next morning, the official search was deployed after Harold Whitmore's missing person file was updated. The Philadelphia Police Department coordinated with the local rescue team and the city's K-9 unit to sweep the area around Maple Street, where the Whitmore house was located. The scope was circled within a 3-kilometer radius, including small roads leading to Fairmount Park, the sparse forest near Wissahickon Creek, and the abandoned warehouse area west of Germantown. More than 24 people participated, divided into small groups, each responsible for one area. They moved in a horizontal line formation, checking every bush, ditch, and side path. The air was still stifling, sunlight hitting the dry ground and fine dust covering everything, making trace detection difficult. Police dogs were released at the back gate of the Whitmore house, where Harold was last seen. After a few circles around the garden, the animals stopped at the ground next to the stable and barked continuously. When the forensics team arrived, they noticed at that spot a new pile of ash, gray-white surface, surrounded by a circle of black soil, as if recently heated. The smoke smell was still faint in the air. Inspector Greer ordered collection of ash, soil, and small objects within a 1 square meter radius around the area. Nearby, he observed, small tire tracks imprinted on the damp ground, possibly from a cart or lawnmower. The entire area was marked and photographed for the file. When checking other areas within the search scope, the rescue team found no items or signs indicating Harold had left by road. Residents along the main route confirmed not seeing him on July 4th. Another police group swept roads leading to the suburbs, paying special attention to parking lots, hotels, gas stations, and parks, places Harold might stop if leaving voluntarily, but no results. His Buick remained stationary in the garage, doors locked, normal condition, no signs of recent use. Greer requested checking the area around the garage to rule out travel by other means, but no strange tire tracks or footprints were found. In the end-of-day summary report, he recorded key facts: victim left house without vehicle, documents and money. Backyard had signs of fire near disappearance time. No direct evidence proving violence, but unusual details needing further investigation. Based on search results and inconsistencies in family members' statements, the case was adjusted from adult missing person to missing with suspicious elements. The search force was ordered to continue expanding the sweep westward in Germantown, while Inspector Greer began focusing on determining the real reason Harold Whitmore disappeared. After 2 days of fruitless searching, the focus shifted to collecting statements and cross-referencing information from directly involved people. Inspector Greer compiled a list including Whitmore family members, 3 neighboring households, and a gardener who regularly came to mow their lawn weekly. His goal was to reconstruct activities on the evening Harold disappeared and identify who last saw him. In the first interview, Eleanor Whitmore stated that evening her husband stayed in his study until late. She said she heard the door open and thought he went out to smoke, which often happened. According to her, there were no unusual noises that night. No one left the house, and she only discovered her husband missing the next morning. When Greer asked about the ash pile found in the backyard, Eleanor explained the family had a habit of gathering leaves and dry branches to burn, completely normal. However, her children provided different information. Richard said that evening his parents argued in the kitchen, voices quite loud. Then he heard something fall, and the back door slammed shut. The second daughter, Anne, said when she went down to the kitchen for water around near midnight, she saw her mother wiping the floor and not letting her come close, saying there was oil spilled on the floor. These details were recorded in the minutes as indicating unusual activity during the time Harold left the house. The maid named Maria, who came to work on the morning of July 4th, stated she smelled a burnt odor when entering the backyard and noticed the ash still smoldering, which was rare because the family usually burned trash on weekends, not in the middle of the night. She also said Eleanor seemed stressed, constantly instructing her to clean inside the kitchen and not go to the stable area. Meanwhile, the next-door neighbor, Mr. Frank Wallace, stated he saw smoke rising from the Whitmore backyard around after 11 p.m. He thought it was trash burning smoke, but the smell was stronger and lasted longer than usual. Another person, 2 houses away, Mrs. Agnes Miller, confirmed seeing flickering yellow light behind the Whitmore house in the same time frame. When statements were compiled, Greer noticed significant overlap regarding smoke, smell, and burning activity. Additionally, details Eleanor provided were inconsistent with other witnesses. She insisted her husband did not smoke cigarettes, while the son and neighbors said the opposite. She said Harold might go out for a walk, but no one had ever seen him do so. When asked about her husband's health, Eleanor replied he had heart disease and tired easily. However, medical records Greer collected from the family doctor showed Harold was completely healthy. Greer compared all statements, created a timeline comparison table, noting that household members described the evening in different ways. He also noted the presence of Russell Barton, the man Richard mentioned in the interview, as a point to check because it might relate to family conflict. After 3 days of collecting statements, Greer concluded the current information could not prove criminal activity, but the number of contradictions in Eleanor's statements and the matching points between the children's, maids, and neighbors' statements were sufficient basis to expand the investigation. His summary report clearly stated, multiple independent sources confirmed smoke from the backyard on the night the victim disappeared. Burning activity not reasonably explained. Wife's statements show signs of contradiction with other witnesses. At the end of the report, Greer proposed a thorough search warrant for the entire Whitmore property to verify the origin of the recorded unusual signs. After analyzing all the statements and noting clear contradictions among the witnesses, Inspector Thomas Greer officially submitted a request to the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office for a warrant to search the entire Whitmore property. The reason stated in the application was missing person with suspicious elements, seen showing signs of unusual activity at the time of the victim's disappearance. 2 days later, the warrant was approved. Early in the morning, a criminal forensics team along with forensic personnel was dispatched to Maple Street, conducting a sweep of the house from the ground floor to the basement and the entire backyard. The search began in the living room and study areas where Harold usually worked. Everything remained tidy as in the initial inspection, with no signs of struggle. However, when the forensics team moved to the staircase leading to the basement, flashlight beams on the wooden floor revealed a small dark streak about 10 centimeters long. Under ultraviolet light, the streak reflected the characteristic color of dried blood. The sample was collected with a swab and numbered as evidence. Greer ordered the basement door opened for further inspection. The space below was damp, dark, and smelled of metal mixed with machine oil. In the middle of the cement floor, the forensics team discovered a small shiny object upon picking it up. It was identified as a .38 caliber bullet casing, the type commonly used in handguns. A few steps away, in a wooden cabinet against the wall, they found a Smith & Wesson revolver, short barrel, wiped clean to a shine. The gun had no fingerprints. Empty cylinder. Everything was documented and sealed. When asked about the gun's origin, Eleanor said it belonged to her husband, used for self-defense for many years, but she didn't remember the last time he took it out. Greer requested fingerprints from all family members for comparison. The blood samples collected at the base of the stairs were urgently sent to the Pennsylvania State Laboratory. While awaiting results, the search team continued checking the backyard. The area around the stable still had scattered ash and a layer of dark black soil. Under the ash layer, they found small metal fragments of unclear shape, along with a few charred bone fragments. All objects were collected in separate evidence bags and sequentially numbered. A portion of the ash, soil, and surrounding material was sampled for deeper analysis. Eleanor observed from the porch, maintaining a reserved attitude, only saying the ash pile was from her gathering leaves and rotten wood to burn. Greer did not react, but ordered expansion of the sample collection radius to 5 meters around the area. That same evening, a preliminary report from the lab arrived. The blood sample from the staircase base was human, Group O. According to medical information the police had, Harold Whitmore was blood type O, matching. However, this result only determined the group, not proving specific origin. The ash and organic material samples were sent to the state forensics lab for spectroscopic analysis to check for traces of human bone or tissue. After a week, preliminary results showed the ash contained organic material burned at high temperature, specific origin undetermined. In other words, insufficient scientific evidence to conclude it was human remains. Greer noted in the report, discovery of blood stain, bullet casing, unusual burned material. No direct evidence, yet proving criminal act, but seen signs incompatible with ordinary missing person hypothesis. All evidence was sealed and stored in the Philadelphia Police Department warehouse for further investigation. After completing the search and evidence collection, Inspector Thomas Greer shifted the investigation to verifying Harold Whitmore's personal relationships in the months before his disappearance. He began by reviewing the contact book, work diary, and recorded phone calls from the family's landline. With Eleanor's permission, police seized a small notebook placed next to the phone in the living room, where Harold usually received and made work-related calls. The book was handwritten, including names, phone numbers of colleagues, clients, and some personal contacts. In the list, Greer paid special attention to a name repeated multiple times on the last pages, R. Barton, Norristown. Combined with detailed call records provided by the phone company, police discovered that in the 2 months before Harold disappeared, more than 12 calls were made from the Whitmore house number to Barton's number, mostly in the afternoon or late evening. A few lasted tens of minutes, unusual for business calls. When asked, Eleanor explained that Russell Barton was a distant relative and someone she knew through the local riding club. According to her, Barton dealt in agricultural equipment, occasionally coming to Philadelphia to introduce products. Police verified this information and confirmed Russell Barton, 42 years old, residing in Norristown, was indeed the owner of a small business specializing in agricultural machinery and repair tools. Tax records showed he had supply contracts with several farms in the city suburbs. Greer arranged to interview Barton at the local police office. During the session, Barton was cooperative, affirming he had known Eleanor Whitmore for over a year, initially through a mutual friend at the Montgomery Riding Club. He said the relationship was only social, sometimes exchanging phone calls about club activities. When asked if he had ever met Harold, Barton replied he had only met once, earlier in the year at a club fundraiser. However, his manner of answering caught Greer's attention. Barton always used Mrs. Whitmore in a familiar tone, and when talking about recent times, he hesitated, as if weighing each detail. Greer did not confront immediately, but noted personally, Barton seems to know more than he shows. Meanwhile, gathering information from Harold's friends and colleagues yielded other data. A co-worker at the law firm said Harold had mentioned intending to revise the will to protect assets for the children. According to the account, he felt uneasy because household spending was increasing rapidly and unclearly. Greer cross-referenced this timeline with Harold's bank statements. In the 3 months before disappearance, personal check withdrawals spiked, many without notes. When asking Eleanor about finances, she said those expenses were for home repairs and purchases, but could not produce corresponding invoices. Police also re-interviewed the maid Maria, who said Eleanor often left the house on early week afternoons, saying she was visiting relatives in Norristown. This information matched Barton's location. From the data obtained, Greer concluded that the relationship between Eleanor Whitmore and Russell Barton was more personal than social. He noted 2 potential investigation directions. First, the possibility of prolonged marital conflict related to financial and asset management. Second, the appearance of another man closely connected to Eleanor, possibly influencing psychology and behavior at the time of Harold's disappearance. The final summary report of this investigation phase stated clearly, evidence from phone records, witness statements and financial data indicates motive related to personal relationships and asset interests needs consideration. Relationship between Eleanor Whitmore and Russell Barton requires close monitoring in the next phase. After verifying Harold Whitmore's personal relationships and collecting sufficient information from related sources, Inspector Thomas Greer began synthesizing all data to build a hypothetical model of events that may have occurred the night Harold disappeared. He rearranged each detail, family members' statements, evidence locations, smoke smell appearance time, blood analysis results, and financial factors to determine a logical sequence for the events. According to the diagram Greer created in the file, the critical time period was identified from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. on July 3, 1971, when only family members were in the house with no visitors. Based on Richard's statement about hearing an argument, then something falling and the door slamming, Greer believed a conflict occurred between Harold and Eleanor in the kitchen or hallway connecting the study. The small blood stain found at the staircase base could result from an injury during a scuffle. From the staircase position leading to the basement and the discovery of .38 casing there, police hypothesized the incident continued in the lower space, quiet and isolated, possibly where Harold was shot or severely injured. The blood sample group O matching Harold's reinforced this hypothesis, though not confirmable by individual testing. After injury or death, the body could have been moved through the back door, where skid marks and hinge stains were found, to the backyard, where the ash pile was discovered. The small tire tracks at the scene were thought to be from a cart or lawnmower used by the family, possibly for transporting heavy objects across the yard. The ash pile containing high-temperature, burned organic material, and the characteristic strong smoke smell confirmed by witnesses appeared that night. All these elements formed a logical chain. Harold injured inside the house, taken outside and body destroyed by fire in the garden. Greer presented this hypothesis in an internal report titled Reconstruction Hypothesis, Whitmore Case. He emphasized, This was the only scenario fitting all collected data, but still lacking a key element, the body or identifiable remains. No physical evidence proving Harold's death, and forensics on the ash undetermined as human or animal. Additionally, the .38 gun found in the house, though matching the basement casing caliber, had no fingerprints or firing marks, so could not be proven as the murder weapon. In a memo to the district attorney, Greer wrote, "Current data sufficient to suspect criminal act, but insufficient for prosecution basis. Lacking direct evidence of victim's death, case can only be maintained as open investigation." The investigation team also considered the possibility Harold left the house then was harmed elsewhere. But this was quickly ruled out. No movement traces, no witnesses seeing him after 11 p.m. and personal vehicles still on site. All evidence led back to the Maple Street house. Within the investigation group, many believe the incident occurred within the house premises, just lacking technical means to prove it. Greer directed preservation of all samples, scene photos, and notes, closing the reconstruction phase with the conclusion. Most plausible hypothesis is victim severely injured, in-house body destroyed by fire, but no forensic confirmation. Case temporarily insufficient for criminal prosecution. He signed the report, numbered the file, and requested transfer of all evidence to the Philadelphia Police Department storage, awaiting further analysis with suitable future technology. The official report from the Pennsylvania State Forensics Lab was sent to the Philadelphia Police Department after nearly a month of sample analysis. Results confirmed the blood sample from the staircase base was human. Group O matching the blood type in Harold Whitmore's medical records. However, since DNA testing technology was not applied at that time, specific individual identification was impossible. Experts could only conclude blood sample likely belongs to the victim. This result helped reinforce Inspector Greer's assessment that an incident leading to serious injury occurred in the house, but still insufficient legal basis to determine murder. The ash analysis was conducted using spectroscopic comparison and mineral testing. Results showed the ash contained organic material burned at high temperature, with phosphate and calcium components, but not reaching the threshold to clearly identify as human or animal bone. The forensics lab explained that current equipment could only distinguish basic elements, not confirm biological origin. The summary report noted, signs indicate presence of heat-decomposed organic material, cannot rule out possibility of human bone tissue, but insufficient scientific data for conclusion. Greer read the results in his office, feeling stuck because all evidence stopped at the suspicion threshold. He compiled the data, blood stain matching victim's group, .38 casing in basement, undetermined origin ash pile, along with statements about black smoke the night Harold disappeared. Each detail individually important, but combined still not forming a complete proof chain of crime. According to investigation regulations of that era, a missing person case could only become criminal when there was a body or clear death evidence. Therefore, Greer had to classify the Whitmore case as suspicious missing with possible crime, while continuing open monitoring. He noted in the minutes, current forensics results do not prove criminal act but show signs of violent event. Recommend preserving all evidence for analysis under more advanced technical conditions. All blood samples, casing, gun, and ash were sealed in specialized bags, file numbered with criminal forensics confirmation signatures. These evidence items were transferred to the Philadelphia Police Department, secure storage along with the original file, including scene photos, statement minutes, sample location diagrams, and test result copies. A copy of the forensics report was sent to the district attorney's office for reference, but the responsible prosecutor responded that no basis for prosecution. For Greer, it was an unsurprising but hard-to-accept conclusion. He still believed Harold Whitmore's disappearance was not voluntary, despite lacking proof. In his personal notebook, he wrote the final line of the 1971 investigation phase, insufficient elements to open criminal case. Maintain file and evidence status awaiting future technical verification. From then, The Whitmore case remained in the open investigation catalog, not closed but no further progress. The sealed evidence bags were placed on storage shelves, with individual codes, marking the temporary end of the initial investigation phase. In the following 2 years, the Harold Whitmore file remained in the open investigation catalog of the Philadelphia Police Department. Inspector Thomas Greer, though continuing to monitor, obtained no new evidence. Periodic scene checks yielded identical results. No body discovery signs, no additional witnesses, no new evidence. By mid-1974, the Whitmore family decided to sell the house on Maple Street. Eleanor explained to authorities that leaving Philadelphia was to start a new life with the children in Tennessee. The house was transferred to another family, most old items removed, only the old stable and backyard remaining. Before the transfer was finalized, Greer led a small team for a final check, confirming the backyard no longer had exploitable physical traces. The report was filed with the note, "Scene no longer capable of additional evidence collection." After Eleanor left, the case gradually lost local media attention. Articles once published in city news about the mysterious disappearance of Germantown lawyer ceased. The investigation agency, due to lack of new results, shifted resources to other active cases. By the end of that year, the police department's internal investigation office proposed reorganizing files without progress for over 2 years. The Harold Whitmore case was listed for long-term storage transfer with temporary designation. Case 317B suspicious missing, pending evidence. The file transfer was officially approved in early 1975, marking the case becoming a cold case under Philadelphia Police Department administrative regulations. All evidence, including blood samples, bullet casing, gun, ash bags, and scene photos, were repackaged in specialized storage boxes, sealed with red stamps, transferred to the preservation warehouse at the main forensics unit headquarters. A full copy of paper documents was stored in the basement file warehouse, section Unresolved Cases 1971-1974. Greer, then over 50, maintained the habit of reviewing old files every weekend. He believed the Whitmore case still had undiscovered elements. In his personal notebook, he wrote multiple notes: back door, unusual point, smoke and ash, unexplained, evasive when mentioning Barton. However, no new evidence appeared to continue the investigation. Time passed. Forensics technology still insufficient to verify ash samples or analyze DNA. Each year, the police department conducted evidence warehouse inventory, and the Whitmore file remained in the list, marked with code 317B, but never reopened. By 1981, when reclassification of unsolved cases was conducted statewide, the Whitmore file was officially transferred to the cold case file catalog of the Special Investigation Unit. In this list, the case was briefly described: victim Harold Whitmore, status suspicious missing, no body, no new evidence, preserve original evidence for analysis with suitable technology. Greer retired in 1983, ending 26 years of service. Before handover, he wrote a memo to his successor, recommending that, if future technology allows, re-examine samples in the Whitmore case for possible unidentified biological traces. After he left the force, File 317B lay dormant in metal cabinets with hundreds of other 1970s cases. Many years later, when the storage warehouse was relocated, all boxes containing Whitmore case evidence were resealed and relabeled, ensuring no loss. From then, Harold Whitmore's disappearance nearly vanished from public memory. New residents on Maple Street rarely knew the house they lived in was once the focus of an unsolved investigation. Only in the old files of the Philadelphia Police Department, the name Harold Whitmore remained in the long list of those briefly noted, missing, undetermined. In early 2018, nearly 47 years after Harold Whitmore disappeared, the lot at 218 Maple Street, once the site of his family home, was purchased by a local construction company to begin a new housing project. The old house had long been demolished, leaving only the cement foundation and the empty backyard intact. During site leveling, on a March morning, workers using an excavator cleared the ground near the former stable area. When the bucket dug down more than half a meter, the operator noticed something hard and light-colored mixed in the dark soil. Stopping the machine to check, he discovered a small charred bone fragment, along with several metal objects and black ash. Initially, they thought it was remnants of old building materials, but when another worker picked up a deformed mechanical wristwatch that had been burned, the group decided to halt construction and report to the site supervisor. Just hours later, Germantown area police arrived, cordoning off the entire site. The crime scene investigation team, coordinating with the criminal forensics unit, set up barriers and marked the excavation area. While clearing surrounding soil, they continued to uncover bone fragments of varying sizes, many showing signs of high-temperature burning. Nearby was a dented gold ring, with the inner band faintly engraved with the initials matching Harold Whitmore's initials. The area inspector immediately notified the Philadelphia Police Department's Special Investigations Unit. Initial checks showed all objects within a radius of about 1.5 meters at depths of 40 to 60 centimeters from the current ground level. The forensics team photographed the overview, sampled surrounding soil and ash, then collected each evidence item with specialized tools. Everything was placed in anti-contamination bags, sequentially numbered per scene preservation protocol. The watch and ring were sent to the Metal Materials Appraisal Department for analysis, while the bone fragments were placed in specialized containers and sealed on-site. The area police preliminary report stated, objects found show signs of heat-treated human bone, along with personal items likely belonging to a former resident of this location. After confirming the address matched the Whitmore family home, investigators retrieved the old file from storage. Case number 317B, Harold Whitmore, missing in 1971, was located in the Philadelphia Police Department's cold case file catalog. The sealed evidence box from 40 years prior remained intact in storage, containing blood samples, bullet casing, ash, and old forensics reports. For the first time since 1974, this file was removed from storage. That same day, a team of specialists from the Pennsylvania State Forensics Lab was dispatched to receive the new samples. On site, they conducted preliminary microscopic examination, confirming bone structure consistent with human, including part of a rib and a small femur fragment. These samples were transported to the central lab in Harrisburg for STR and mitochondrial DNA testing, standard procedure for identifying burned remains. The process took weeks due to severe heat and nearly half-century burial damage. Specialists used chemical cleaning, extracted DNA from remaining bone marrow, then amplified gene sequences for comparison with relatives' data. Police contacted Harold's eldest son, Richard Whitmore, now over 60, to collect comparison samples. Sampling followed standard procedure, oral mucosal cells collected and sent directly to the Harrisburg lab. After multiple verification rounds, analysis results showed bone DNA matched Richard's with a 99.98% probability of direct blood relation. The forensics report concluded, bone samples excavated at 218 Maple Street, Germantown, have genetic origin matching direct relatives of Harold Whitmore. Conclusion, victim identified as Harold Whitmore, born 1913. Concurrent with DNA testing, specialists conducted mechanical analysis on the rib fragment from the same area. Under microscope, they found metal traces and damage characteristic of high-velocity penetration. The report stated, eighth right rib has round perforation approximately 8 millimeters in diameter, charred edges containing small lead particles, consistent with close-range gunshot wound. Combined with historical data from the old file, where a .38 casing was found in the basement, forensics determined Harold's cause of death as penetrating chest gunshot, causing severe heart and lung damage. Burn damage on bones indicated the body was incinerated at high temperature post-mortem. All results were compiled in Appraisal Report Number 2018, PAF 317B. signed June 18, 2018. In the conclusion, the forensics chief emphasized, biological and mechanical evidence confirm victim died from firearm impact. Burn traces indicate intentional body destruction by fire, highly likely to conceal crime. The report was urgently sent to the Philadelphia Police Department, with all supporting data, including gene charts, microscopic photos, and scene descriptions. Upon result release, the Cold Case Unit Chief Inspector convened a special meeting to review the 1971 original file. Old documents, from blood sample minutes, ash pile photos, to initial analysis reports, were cross-referenced with new findings. Every detail matched remarkably: ash pile location, .38 casing, blood type O, and now confirmed remains evidence. After nearly 50 years, the hypothesis Inspector Greer noted in his personal notebook, victim injured in house, body destroyed by fire, was proven correct. Police immediately updated case status in the investigation system from suspicious missing to unsolved homicide. A brief press conference was held at Philadelphia Police Headquarters to announce victim identification in the long-term missing person case. The department spokesperson stated, "Modern forensics results have allowed us to identify Harold Whitmore, missing since 1971. This is a significant step toward clarifying the case." Immediately after, the Cold Case Unit was tasked with fully reactivating File 317B. All documents, evidence, and new reports were entered into the department's electronic system with digital backups. The goal was clear: cross-reference all old and new data to pursue those responsible for Harold Whitmore's death. After 47 years, the case the city thought time had erased was officially restarted, marking the first turning point in a nearly half-century investigation. After forensics results confirmed Harold Whitmore's identity, the Philadelphia Police Department formed a special task force to reinvestigate Case 317B. The assignment went to the Unsolved Cases Investigation Team, led by Detective Nora Levine. She was a veteran investigator with over 20 years in criminology and historical forensics analysis. Levine and her team's first step was restoring the entire 1971 original file, including statement minutes, scene photos, samples, and old forensics reports. These documents were digitized and chronologically reorganized for analysis. In a small third-floor room at police headquarters, Levine and technicians spent weeks reading every yellowed paper page, re-examining details that 1970s technology or procedures couldn't fully process. She noted many key points previously overlooked or underexploited. One was the Group O blood sample found at the Whitmore house staircase base. Per the 1971 report, it matched Harold's blood type, but no further comparison testing was done. Levine requested the state forensics lab analyze DNA from the stored blood evidence. Despite over 40 years, the sample remained frozen, sufficient for DNA extraction. Subsequent comparison confirmed the blood fully matched Harold Whitmore's DNA, proving the house stain was the victim's. This discovery reinforced that the incident occurred within the property. Next, the team re-examined 1971 statement minutes. Numerous contradictions between Eleanor Whitmore and other witnesses were noted but never resolved. Eleanor claimed her husband often went for evening walks, while all children and neighbors confirmed Harold had no such habit. The maid Maria's statement about burnt smell in backyard was also inadequately verified. Levine ordered locating surviving witnesses for new statements. First contacted was Maria Fernandez, now over 80, living in Reading, Pennsylvania. In the interview, she clearly recalled the morning of July 4, 1971. "I smelled very strong smoke when entering the yard," Mrs. Whitmore said, burning dry leaves, but the smell wasn't like burning wood, it was acrid and suffocating. When asked about Eleanor's demeanor, Maria said her employer was restless, irritable, like hiding something. This statement was recorded and filed as supporting evidence. The team also contacted neighbor Frank Wallace, who reported seeing smoke the night Harold disappeared. Though over 90, he remembered the fire behind the house, not like burning trash, but like burning something larger. These accounts helped Levine reaffirm the nighttime fire was not normal activity, but directly related to Harold's disappearance. Simultaneously, the team focused on reviewing Russell Barton documents, previously a peripheral figure. They traced his old company records, a machinery dealership in Norristown, and found Barton's name in contracts with a Montgomery County farm from 1970-1973. A former employee, Daniel Price, when interviewed, recalled Barton frequently receiving evening calls from a woman in Philadelphia, sometimes lasting hours. Price also provided that Barton used his personal truck to Germantown during the time matching Harold's disappearance. Shown old photos of Eleanor Whitmore, Price confirmed that woman very much resembled the one who met Barton at the office once. The evidence analysis team's cross-reference report yielded notable results. The 1971 ash sample, previously undetermined burned organic material, retested with modern mass spectrometry, showed phosphate and hydroxyapatite composition matching the 2018 excavated human bone. This proved the old ash pile was where Harold's body was destroyed, confirming Greer's notes. All data was compiled by Levine's team into a connection diagram, scene locations, evidence, witnesses, and Eleanor Barton relationship. The arrow from Eleanor Whitmore to Russell Barton was bolded noted, personal relationship for consideration. The reconstructed timeline was completed, 9 p.m. Argument, 11 p.m. Fire behind house. 12 a.m. No one saw Harold leave area. This structure fully matched witness descriptions and new DNA-confirmed evidence. Finally, the team held an internal synthesis meeting to evaluate results. Detective Levine's over 30-page report concluded, modern forensics analysis proves victim died at home and body burned to conceal crime. All direct and circumstantial evidence points to Eleanor Whitmore with suspicious connection to Russell Barton. The document was forwarded to the district attorney's office for next investigation steps. For the Philadelphia Police Department, this was the first time in 47 years the Harold Whitmore case had clear basis to proceed. After completing forensics analyses and witness interviews, Detective Nora Levine's team shifted focus to finances, a factor potentially clarifying motive. A specialist group coordinated with the Philadelphia Police Economic Crimes Unit and FBI technical support to review all Eleanor Whitmore banking activity from 1971-1974, covering the disappearance and subsequent years. Using commercial banks' digitized archives, investigators accessed old transaction records for Eleanor's account at First Pennsylvania Bank. Statements showed a series of unusual withdrawals starting about 6 months after Harold's disappearance, including 3 large cash withdrawals without noted purpose. Most notable was an $85,000 life insurance payout Eleanor received in February 1973, nearly 2 years post-incident. Per insurance records, payment was based on prolonged missing without signs of life, after local court confirmed presumed dead status. This showed Eleanor actively sued for beneficiary rights. This drew special attention, as in that year's court file, she mentioned no suspicious or criminal elements in Harold's disappearance, only husband left home and did not return. This contradicted all 1971 police records. Along with bank data, FBI traced another account at Norristown Trust under Russell Barton. Financial records showed in March 1973, Barton received a $20,000 transfer from Eleanor's account, described as machinery business partnership investment. However, Barton's business then had no corresponding investment records. This led investigators to suspect personal or private agreement transfers. To reinforce, Levine's team seized Barton's personal documents stored in Montgomery County administrative files after his 1998 death. Among old papers was a tin box containing many letters and postcards sent from Philadelphia in 1973, all signed A. or Eleanor, handwriting matching samples in Mrs. Whitmore's legal files. These letters were quickly sent to FBI document appraisal for authenticity. Optical character matching software analysis confirmed all written by Eleanor Whitmore. Letter contents revealed deep romantic relationship and financial elements. In a letter dated June 5, 1971, weeks before Harold's disappearance, Eleanor wrote, "I'm tired of pretending everything is fine. He never lets me be free. If there's a way to end it all, I will." Another, October 1972, discussed, planned to start life over, and money enough to leave Philadelphia. FBI translated and filed all contents. Another key document was a handwritten contract between Barton and Eleanor, titled Machinery Purchase Partnership Agreement, but legally invalid without notarized signatures. Written in blue ink, it stated Eleanor's share secured by life insurance. This suggested insurance payout was capital for Barton's use. Combining all data, the team concluded indirect evidence of Barton and Eleanor's close relationship and shared financial benefits immediately after Harold's disappearance. Levine's team summary report to the prosecutor's office stated, "Bank data and seized correspondence show Eleanor Whitmore received victim life insurance benefits, then transferred part to Russell Barton." Handwritten letter contents reveal romantic relationship and financial agreements formed before and after Harold Whitmore's disappearance. These establish possible crime motive for asset seizure and concealment. With this discovery, investigators held a chain of evidence connecting personal relationship, economic benefit, and Harold Whitmore's disappearance. Pieces nearly half a century earlier, no one could clearly see. After the financial investigation results and correspondence reinforced the hypothesis about the relationship between Eleanor Whitmore and Russell Barton. The cold case team moved to the next step, verifying Eleanor's presence at the crime scene on the night Harold disappeared. The primary goal was to determine if any biological traces of hers existed in the 1971 evidence. According to old records, stored samples included fabric pieces, ash, and soil collected around the backyard fire area. Forensics technicians re-examined each sample under optical equipment and discovered trace DNA still present in one old ash sample, specifically partially preserved human epithelial cells. Though degraded by time and environment, modern DNA analysis, particularly MPS technique, could recover sufficiently long gene sequences for comparison with living individuals' data. From this, Detective Nora Levine obtained a court order to collect Eleanor's DNA. She was living in Knoxville, Tennessee. When contacted, she was 83, living alone in a small suburban house, long avoiding media. The meeting followed administrative procedure, non-accusatory. Investigators explained they were reviewing an old case and needed biological samples to rule out DNA matches with evidence. Eleanor agreed to cooperate, but refused to sign formal consent. To comply legally, the team used indirect collection, permitted for potential suspects without signed documents. 2 forensics officers, under local prosecutor supervision, collected a porcelain cup and plastic straw she used during the meeting. Items were sealed on-site and sent to the Pennsylvania State Forensics Lab. Saliva trace DNA extraction was performed under sterile conditions. Eleanor's DNA was then compared to the female biological trace found in 1971 ash. Analysis completed after nearly 3 weeks. The forensics report stated, genetic markers fully match at 22 str loci, biological identity, probability, 1 in 14 trillion. Conclusion, DNA in evidence belongs to Eleanor Whitmore. This discovery was significant as it proved the wife was at the fire site where Harold's body was destroyed. Per forensics experts, random or indirect contact was nearly impossible, as the sample was deep in the ash layer, preserved with biological fat and burned tissue, indicating direct involvement or presence during burning. Concurrently, police cross-referenced Russell Barton's DNA to assess involvement. Though he died in 1998, his DNA was recovered from archived medical records at Norristown Hospital with federal court permission. Analysis showed no match with any scene traces. This ruled out his presence at the house during body incineration. Results were presented to the team in late December 2018. Detective Levine held a meeting to synthesize all evidence, financial ties between Eleanor and Barton, letters showing motive, and now DNA proving Eleanor's presence at the crime scene. all arranged in a clear timeline. She marked in the report, DNA analysis confirms Eleanor Whitmore's direct presence during victim body destruction. This biological trace is the most authentic physical evidence in the entire case. An internal forensics note added, no other DNA found besides victim and Eleanor. This excludes third-party presence. When sent to the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, legal experts assessed it as a decisive turning point. For the first time since 1971, investigators had scientific evidence confirming a specific individual's presence at the crime scene, plus prior forensics proving Harold died from gunshot and was burned afterward. This DNA match not only reinforced Inspector Greer's nearly half-century-old hypothesis, but carried strong legal value to restructure the case as criminal. In the biological analysis phase conclusion report, the summary line was bolded. Eleanor Whitmore's DNA trace identified in backyard burn ash at Maple Street House. This genetic sample presence proves suspect was at scene during victim body destruction. With this conclusion, the Harold Whitmore case officially shifted to determining criminal responsibility, opening opportunity to uncover the full truth hidden for 47 years. After DNA appraisal results confirmed Eleanor Whitmore's presence at the body-burning scene, the Philadelphia Police Department's Unsolved Cases Investigation Team officially advanced the case to prosecution preparation. Detective Nora Levine was tasked with compiling all investigation documents, including scientific evidence, witness statements, and physical scene analysis. In early 2019 weeks, the team worked continuously to finalize the criminal file, ensuring all data verified and chronologically ordered. The file's first section was forensics evidence chain, STR and mitochondrial DNA tests, confirming victim identity, forensics report determining death from penetrating chest gunshot, and ash analysis, proving intentional body destruction. Next was new biological evidence, Eleanor's DNA in burn ash with victim absolute match probability. Second section was correspondence and financial documents, evidence chain proving relationship and motive. Letters between Eleanor and Russell Barton showed intimacy and intent to start life over, while bank statements showed Eleanor receiving Harold's life insurance payout, then transferring part to Barton. Third section was witness statements, Maid Maria Fernandez, confirming smoke smell and Eleanor's tense demeanor the morning after disappearance. Neighbors Frank Wallace and Agnes Miller, both seeing smoke that night, and Barton's former employee, noting Barton met Eleanor during case timeline. All statements re-verified with recorded minutes and signed reports. In the next section, criminal forensics added mechanical scene analysis, based on 1971 original photos and 2018 terrain data. Using 3D simulation technology, they reconstructed the path from back door to stable backyard fire area. Results showed about 42 meters, slight slope, surface suitable for pulling heavy loads with machinery. In old files, technicians noted small tire tracks near ash but unidentified then. Now, cross-referencing photos and stored tire prints, the team confirmed tracks fully matched Massey Ferguson tractor tires owned by the Whitmores. Technical reports stated, track width and tread pattern 100% match 1971 Whitmore House tractor tires. This vehicle, capable of pulling up to 300 kilograms, sufficient to move victim body from house to backyard. This mechanical report was the final piece completing the event chain. Harold shot in-house, body moved outside via tractor, then burned for disposal. Concurrently, forensics added bullet trajectory kinetic charts, proving .38 basement casing compatible with house-found Smith & Wesson gun. All results packaged into 12 volumes, each numbered with evidence index. Upon completion, Detective Levine submitted the full file to the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. There, Chief Prosecutor for Backlog Cases, Michael D. Harris, personally reviewed each part. He requested cross-checking 1971-minute copies to ensure unbroken evidence custody chain. After verifying all valid, Harris concluded current evidence strong enough for criminal indictment. In the prosecution motion to court, he stated, scientific witness, and financial data form logical chain directly linking suspect Eleanor Whitmore to causing Harold Whitmore's death. Body destruction to conceal crime satisfies concealment element. Under Pennsylvania Penal Code Section 2502, act classified as second-degree murder, with additional charges of evidence tampering and investigation obstruction. Indictment signed March 4, 2019, officially listing Eleanor Whitmore as defendant in the Harold Whitmore case. After nearly half a century, cold case 317B file shifted from open investigation to criminal prosecution preparation. Detective Levine's conclusion report ended with a concise line, "All independent data converge on one point. Eleanor Whitmore present at scene possessed means, had financial motive and concealment behavior. File sufficient for prosecution submission." After indictment signed, the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office coordinated with Tennessee State Police for Eleanor Whitmore's federal process arrest. On October 14, 2018, a special task force of 4 Philadelphia police officers and Knoxville police representatives was sent to her quiet West City residential address. When police knocked, Eleanor was in the living room, reading the paper and drinking tea. She remained unusually calm upon arrest warrant notification, only requesting to change clothes and take medication. Arrest executed orderly, no resistance. After local station procedures, she was flown to Philadelphia per Pennsylvania court order. At the airport, cold case unit team led by Detective Nora Levine directly received the suspect. Eleanor, 83, small stature, white hair, maintained silence. When asked if she wanted representation, she briefly said she would wait for family lawyer. Throughout transport to police headquarters, she said almost nothing, asking once, "Why, after all these years, won't you leave me alone?" The interrogation took place in the second-floor interview room at Philadelphia Police Headquarters, fully recorded. Present were Detective Levine, an assistant prosecutor, and court-appointed temporary defense attorney. Levine began by confirming identity and reading suspect rights. She summarized investigation results, including Harold Whitmore body discovery, DNA evidence, and Eleanor's financial ties to Russell Barton. Throughout, Eleanor sat straight, hands clasped, unchanging gaze. When asked if she knew anything about her husband's death, she replied briefly, "I didn't kill him. I don't know what happened." Levine continued presenting DNA results, showing Eleanor's biological trace in burn ash, explaining random coincidence nearly zero. Eleanor responded slowly, "If my trace is there, maybe because I cleaned the backyard. I often burn trash there." When prosecutor mentioned Harold's blood in the house, she shook her head. "He injured himself many times gardening. I can't remember everything." When asked about Russell Barton relationship, Eleanor paused seconds, then said, "Mr. Barton was a friend. Everyone knew that." Disjointed, inconsistent answers led minutes to note suspect evasive and providing no reasonable explanation for confirmed physical evidence. In the second interrogation phase, asked about life insurance payout, Eleanor insisted, "Everything legal." She followed lawyer advice then, and didn't know it would be seen as evidence. When Levine presented Barton letters, she didn't deny handwriting but said, "Just complaints of an unhappy woman." At session end, prosecutor asked directly, "Were you in the backyard the night your husband disappeared?" Eleanor replied, "I don't remember, it's been too long." Interrogation lasted over 4 hours, ending when attorney requested stop to protect client rights. No confession given, but session content sufficient to strengthen prosecution file. Video recording, interrogation minutes, and suspect behavior language analysis stored as additional evidence. Detective Levine's synthesis report to district attorney concluded, "Suspect denies guilt but provides no reasonable explanation for evidence traces and financial data. Calm demeanor and evasive responses reinforce suspect's awareness of the incident." After interrogation, Eleanor was transferred to temporary detention at Philadelphia County Jail, awaiting preliminary hearing. Investigation agency finalized full litigation file, including DNA results, interrogation minutes, forensics, financial, and witness reports. Late October 2018, Police Department officially handed file to District Attorney for criminal prosecution procedures. On the report's final page, a concise line was typed, Harold Whitmore case. Cold case, 317-bit investigation phase complete. File transferred for official prosecution. The trial of Eleanor Whitmore opened at the Montgomery County Court of Common Pleas in early December 2018, nearly 47 years after Harold Whitmore was reported missing. It was one of the oldest cases in Pennsylvania judicial history to go to trial with modern DNA evidence. The large courtroom was under strict security, with media representatives allowed but limited in number. The defendant, then 83 years old, sat silently beside her defense attorney. On the prosecution table were stacked thick files labeled Cold Case 317B, Commonwealth vs. Eleanor Whitmore. The trial lasted 10 days, aiming to clarify the entire investigation process from 1971 to 2018. Opening, Chief Prosecutor Michael D. Harris presented the indictment statement. He summarized the case events. From the day Harold Whitmore disappeared, initial suspicions, collected evidence, to his remains identified via DNA technology. Harris emphasized that scientific progress provided the opportunity for justice to catch up with time. He said the case proved that truth does not vanish, it only waits to be rediscovered. The prosecution's opening aimed to establish the logical chain linking physical evidence, witness statements, and the defendant's actions. After the opening, the prosecution presented the full investigation process. Illustrative slides appeared sequentially. Photos of the old Maple Street house, 1971 crime scene images, sealed samples, and 2018 excavation photos showing the location of charred bones with the watch and gold ring. Harris introduced each milestone, the 1971 forensics report on Group O blood sample, bullet casing discovery, then DNA conclusions confirming Harold Whitmore's identity and Eleanor's biological trace in the burn ash. He connected new evidence to unresolved parts of the old investigation, showing perfect matches in location, time, and material characteristics. The first witness called was Dr. Rebecca Collins, Pennsylvania State DNA forensics expert. She detailed the genetic material recovery process from burned bones and confirmed DNA matches between bone samples and Harold's son, as well as between Ash and Eleanor. When defense counsel cross-examined on cross-contamination possibility, Collins explained the ash contained biological fat traces only formed by direct DNA contact during burning, rejecting indirect contact theory. Her scientific report was accepted as official evidence. The next witness was Detective Nora Levine, who led the case reinvestigation. In nearly 4-hour testimony, Levine outlined reinvestigation steps, restoring old files, evidence cross-referencing, financial analysis, and discovering letters between Eleanor and Russell Barton. She meticulously described searching old evidence in storage, saying every piece existed since 1971, just waiting to be reassembled. When asked about motive, Levine affirmed, evidence shows marital conflict and financial gain as crime drivers. After Levine, prosecution called former Inspector Thomas Greer, now 92, who handled the initial phase. He appeared in a wheelchair, voice hoarse but clear. Greer recounted discovering bloodstain, casing, and backyard ash pile, plus his suspicions about Eleanor's statements. He said, "We always believed something happened in that house. We just lacked technology to prove it then." Greer's testimony strongly impressed the jury, showing investigation continuity across police generations. The defense, led by attorney Mark Henson, focused on challenging DNA evidence validity. He argued samples degraded over time, errors unavoidable. He also tried implicating Russell Barton, saying this man had a romantic relationship with Eleanor and could be involved. However, prosecution countered with Barton's DNA analysis, showing no scene matches, emphasizing he died long ago, unable to defend himself. When defense claimed Eleanor lacked strength to move 90 kilograms body, prosecution presented mechanical report showing tractor tire tracks perfectly matching a vehicle she could operate. Additional evidence was introduced in following days, handwritten letters between Eleanor and Barton, mentioning starting life over and insurance money, financial statements showing transfers, and neighbor witnesses on backyard smoke. Each was carefully presented with originals or certified copies. The courtroom fell silent multiple times as prosecution showed rescanned ash sample images displaying charred bone fragments and DNA markers. By day 8, all evidence presentation ended. In closing argument, Prosecutor Harris synthesized the nearly half-century investigation, emphasizing 3 points. 1. Victim died from gunfire in house. 2. Body intentionally destroyed by fire. 3. Eleanor Whitmore's DNA in ash with victim. He concluded, no coincidence exists in science. Mrs. Whitmore was the only one present, with motive and means. Defense attorney argued his client was prosecuted on past inferences and modern technology cannot replace direct witnessing. After 3 hours deliberation, they returned and read the verdict. Eleanor Whitmore guilty of second-degree murder and evidence tampering. The courtroom atmosphere was heavy as the sentence was pronounced. Eleanor sat motionless, eyes forward, no emotion. The presiding judge, per Pennsylvania law, sentenced life imprisonment without parole, plus additional charge of investigation obstruction. The sentence was recorded as one of the cold cases resolved with the most modern forensics at the time. At conclusion, Prosecutor Harris stated briefly, "Justice came late, but it came." On the spectator benches, attendees were silent, while media began recording the closure of a case buried by time for nearly half a century. After Eleanor Whitmore's sentence was pronounced, the Philadelphia Police Department held an official press conference in late December 2018 to announce full case resolution results. In the central headquarters conference room, behind the podium was a large board reading. Cold Case 317B, Justice After 47 Years. Media, forensics researchers, district attorney representatives, and many retired officers who participated in the Whitmore investigation were present. Department Representative, Police Commissioner David Milner, opened by thanking generations of investigators, especially Inspector Thomas Greer, who laid the foundation nearly half a century ago. He said, "This proves that when justice is preserved with evidence, it is never buried." The report was detailed in presentation, showing the over 40-year evidence preservation process was decisive. Storage warehouse images appeared, thick paper-sealed bags, hand-coded from 1971, still intact in metal cabinets. Police described annual cold case warehouse inventory, and thanks to strict procedures, Whitmore's blood samples, ash, casing, and original minutes were fully preserved for modern DNA analysis. Careful storage, combined with scientific progress, was why the case could be solved after nearly half a century. Dr. Rebecca Collins, the forensics expert who performed tests, presented at the conference on applied techniques. She described DNA recovery from burned bones, once impossible in the 1970s. Mitochondrial DNA analysis allowed genetic trace identification even with near-total organic destruction. She said, samples investigators collected in 1971 with primitive tools became the bridge between past and today's justice. The police department's summary report exceeded 200 pages, divided into 4 main parts: 1. Case events from 1971 to 2018. 2. Evidence preservation and inventory procedures. 3. Scientific and forensics analysis. 4. Operational summary. In internal evaluation, Detective Nora Levine's cold case unit was recognized for maintaining persistent systematic investigation, adhering to absolute evidence custody chain principles. The report stated, if any sample was lost or damaged, the Whitmore case could never be revived. This is a prime example of evidence storage importance in modern investigation. Philadelphia media published analysis series on the case, calling it a lesson in data and science endurance. Major papers like the Philadelphia Inquirer and the Morning Call featured photos of Detective Levine before the investigation diagram, describing her as the one ending one of Pennsylvania's longest mysteries. Local WHYY editorial commented, "For nearly half a century, the Whitmore case symbolized technology limits and traditional investigation deadlock. The 2018 resolution not only solved a death, but reaffirmed faith in science power and evidence preservation integrity." The Whitmore case was officially recognized as one of the oldest resolved homicide cases in Pennsylvania history, one of the oldest solved murders in the state. The Pennsylvania Department of Justice sent commendation to the Philadelphia cold case team, stating, "Coordination between forensic science, file storage, and investigation operations is a model for modern work." Additionally, the National Forensics Training Center selected the Whitmore case as teaching material in advanced long-term evidence handling programs. Criminal investigation students were required to study warehouse organization, minute recording, and biological evidence recovery from burned materials. In the final summary report, Detective Nora Levine wrote, "This case not only proves technology can change outcomes, but shows the value of accuracy and persistence in every evidence collection step. An ash speck, blood bag, or handwritten line can become justice's key if properly preserved." She also mentioned Inspector Thomas Greer, who noted in his 1971 notebook, "Keep everything, because one day technology will know how to speak." That quote was reprinted in the report introduction as tribute. After the sentence took effect, Cold Case 317B file was transferred to Resolved Homicide Catalog. All paper documents, photos, and electronic data were backed up and sent to the Pennsylvania State Judicial Archives Center. A condensed copy was compiled as reference in federal criminal investigation training, detailing old evidence recovery via DNA technology. Additionally, at the Philadelphia Police Academy, the Whitmore case was added to the Scene Management and Evidence Preservation curriculum as a prime example of sealing procedures and storage chain control importance. Many years later, whenever new classes were introduced to Case 317B, instructors began with the old Maple Street house photo and Greer's quote, "Justice may sleep, but it never dies." The Whitmore case became a classic illustration of patience and science power in pursuing truth, closing a nearly half-century file with profound lessons on responsibility, memory, and human faith in justice. The story of the Harold Whitmore case is not only a nearly half-century investigation journey, but also a profound mirror reflecting truth, justice, and collective memory values in modern American society. From 1971 to 2018, people in the legal system, from Inspector Thomas Greer, who persistently stored every sample despite lacking proof technology, to Detective Nora Levine, who used DNA advances to reconnect justice's thread, all demonstrated belief that even small evidence can change a case's fate. In today's era, with America facing thousands of unsolved cold cases, the Whitmore case proves justice is never outdated if society does not abandon it. The major lesson is not only for investigators, but every American citizen. Every action, even small, leaves traces, not just physical, but moral. Eleanor Whitmore's attempt to conceal crime in the peaceful Germantown house shows no deception can endure forever before time and science. Conversely, police's careful evidence storage reflects enduring responsibility needed in any profession, honest work, truth, respect, and persistent pursuit of right. In today's U.S. context, with rapid societal change, fake news spread, and institutional trust challenged, the Whitmore case reminds that justice can only be maintained if every person, from ordinary citizens to public agencies, believes truth may be delayed, but cannot be forgotten. Thank you for following to the end of the journey, seeking justice for the Harold Whitmore case, proof that truth may be buried but never vanishes. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join us exploring other chilling cold cases where time, science, and determination together bring justice back to light.